brushed.
All right, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host for tonight, RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor at CriticalBlast.com, Chief Cook and Bottle Washer. And we have with us the brain trust of retailers from across the country today. Why don't we just start? You'll introduce yourself.
Hey, I own Fantastic Comics in Berkeley, California.
Hi, Michael Tierney from Arkansas, Collector's Edition in North Little Rock, and the comic book store in Little Rock. Been doing this nearly 40 years.
I'm Dave Geyer, owner and operator of Cosmic Comics Games and Collectibles in Belleville, Illinois.
Hey, this is Steve. You may know me as Perch, and I had the comic shop up in Bothell, Washington, and now I'll be opening up a new one here as soon as I can open a store.
Mike Barron, I'm a writer. Sometimes I sell comics out of the trunk of my car.
That's my other idea. If the store thing doesn't work, I could still do that.
Van.
Next to the guy selling shrimp.
Yes.
All right, so we've been meeting up every 2 weeks here now since this whole business started, and I think today is kind of sort of, it may be close depending on what state you're in. I'm officially calling it 32, the new 32 days of no comics, and today is another Wednesday. It's another no comic book day. Hashtag NCBD. How's everybody holding up now? I mean, Michael, you're selling no new material, but you're open.
I'm open
and closed.
Yeah, I'm doing okay right now. I mean, it's the store sales are pretty meager, but fortunately, I'm doing a lot of online sales.
Yule, how about you?
We've been closed since March 15th, 16th. We got that week's comics and haven't even sold them. Everything's packed up and ready to go to our new location, but even when I'm moved in there, I'm not sure when we're going to open up just yet.
Dave, how are things going for Cosmic Comics?
We're still closed. I go live with our website finally tomorrow night, so hopefully we can get some e-commerce in. I called our Belleville Police Department to find out some information, and they had very little information as to when we can open up or whether we should even be closed. So I don't know. Don't know yet.
Well, hey, you're getting at least a site up, so that's one good thing. A lot of news happened in the last 2 weeks. First of all, I thought the topic of conversation tonight was going to be, oh my God, no new comics until August. And now, apparently, once somebody figured out a way to distribute comics, all the people who couldn't distribute comics suddenly found ways to distribute comics.
Yeah, what a coincidence.
So the big news is Midtown and DCBS taking over as splitting the country down the middle and becoming distributors. Mr. Barron, are you keeping track of all this distributor nonsense?
Yeah, my friend Milton Greep was the president of Capital Comics, which at one time was the second largest distributor of comics in the world. It was a multi-million-dollar enterprise, but then it collapsed and Diamond bought them. And Milt keeps on top of the issues. He has a website called icv2.com.
Excellent site.
Stands for Internal Correspondence Volume 2. And it's a good site to find out what's going on in the comic shop. I know that our local shops are hurting. One local shop voted to go co-op. And to me, that's a bad sign.
So what do you mean they decided to go co-op? How does that work?
Well, they gave it up as a private enterprise owned by two people, and it offered membership shares to anybody who wanted to buy in and be on the board. And however many people buy in, and you would get a voice on the board according to the percentage that you bought in. And they were encouraging their customers to buy in. But in my experience, a successful retail operation is usually the result of one or two guiding intelligences and not a committee.
Yeah.
Too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
All you need is one customer who really, really, really likes that indie title that he puts a lot of faith in, and somebody's going to get stuck with a lot of inventory. Michael, you wrote for you're quoted frequently on ICV2, and you were on there just just this week about the new DC plan to use
Yeah.
DCBS and
It was one of those
Midtown.
things I knew would probably hit a lot of resistance from some of the retailers who are not able to sell at this time. So I felt, well, DC did a thing that's really going to help me out quite a bit. I need to, speak up and show my support on it. And it's one of those things. I don't think this is going to really hurt a lot of other retailers who aren't able to sell right now because the selection is just piddling small. I mean, I thought Justice League might be the only book that anybody might actually miss some sales on because it's going to be released. But, like the first week, it's mostly reprints. And I mean, we're talking about maybe half a dozen actual titles and some graphic novels that are already for sale on the book trade market. I'm not even ordering those. So I don't think it's really going to hurt the other retailers. And what they're doing is just almost, like a glass of water to people out in the desert. I mean, it's when this thing was announced, I jumped on it right away. And I was probably one of the first accounts approved. And I mean, I had customers instantly posting on my Facebook page, people calling me. I've gotten emails still today. Hey, are you going to be carrying those? Are you going to be carrying those? People are so desperate for some new comics. The last thing they wanted to hear is like, nah, I don't want to do that. And so everybody's really excited about it. And I mean, my sales exploded on Friday and Saturday. I mean, here I've been just in a wasteland with hardly any traffic. Friday and Saturday, it was like normal business days. Like I had a sale going on. And what were they buying? DC Comics. So I sold a ton of back issues of DC on Friday and Saturday, and I had a lot to do with that announcement. And also find it interesting, too, is until they made that announcement, Diamond was saying, hey, August, who knows, maybe September before we start shipping again. As soon as all of a sudden you're getting this announcement that this other distributor is going to start carrying some books, Diamond's like, okay, we'll be back in May. So, I don't think that would have happened without the first thing.
Yeah.
Well, and what's
Now, of
funny,
course,
too-
a lot of the stores. Go ahead,
What-
Dave.
Yeah, just add on to what Michael was saying. I found it really bizarre because the email that we got from DC was, we could start ordering these. We have to have it in by yesterday on that first order.
Uh-huh.
And my wife Susan and I, we looked through. I'm like, where's Joker 80? 80th anniversary. Where's Batman 92? Where's all these issues that were supposed to come out in the beginning of April? Like Michael said, we got just hardly anything to choose from. And yes, my customers are excited. And I had mentioned this last week. This is a really smart move for DC because now people who may not have read DC in the past or had stopped reading DC in the past and had gone strictly Marvel, they're now going to pick up DC Comics again because they're the only guys in town releasing stuff. And so it's a good bump for DC if they do this right. If they keep giving us retailers hardly anything to order from and reprints and, third reprint or second reprint, it's not going to work very well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people are just
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are desperate for something to read. I mean,
You're right.
if we're not in quarantine, this could be a boom period for me if I just had the merchandise to sell. I'm
Right.
actually not doing too bad as it is, but if I'd had merchandise, this could have been a peak season. I mean, people want it. People are coming in and saying, when am I going to get new books all the time? I'm answering the same question multiple times a day, is when Diamond wants to ship again. And, now I finally got another answer for it, and everybody's thrilled to hear that answer. And so, I'm going to, I jumped on board because that's what my customers wanted, and I'm going to give my customers what they're asking for. Not,
What I thought bizarre too is DC said that our orders with Diamond had been canceled, and then I get an email from DC saying, "Oh, by the way, we still have your books that you ordered, even though you're getting it from with me as Lunar, even though you're getting it from Lunar Distribution. We still have those books on hold for you as well." I'm like, wait a minute, the information is so muddled at this point.
right.
It's like somebody needs to tell us what's really going down here.
Now, if you go down a couple
It really
more paragraphs
is,
on that,
right.
they say that they'll do an FLC, give you a chance to adjust those orders. So,
Yeah.
they said we still got the orders, but we'll let you change those.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Stephen?
No, it really is. I mean, the information is clearly coming very quickly, and it hasn't all been sorted out. And that's to be expected, right? I mean, they are trying to move rapidly, but I think Michael makes a good point here that it is the worst news is no news, and the silence causes people to conserve cash. It causes people to be more concerned about what's going on. So we needed to get wheels moving in some format, and people feel more comfortable coming back to the table. And so, I mean, it needed to happen, even if it's not perfect for everyone. It's clearly not. But it's still it gets momentum again. And the worst thing that can happen in comics or any industry is if you lose momentum, people just stop thinking about it. They start, their minds wander. It's not a good thing. So news flowing is good in many cases.
Oh, yeah. And competition's always a good thing. I don't know how it is for everybody else, but I'm serviced out of Diamond's Memphis olive branch, and it is awful. Every week, 10 to 25% damages and shortages every single week. I mean, are you guys getting that bad of shipments in? I'm hoping now maybe they got some competition. Maybe they'll, it's a real simple solution. They just don't ever want to fix it.
It wildly varies. I mean, it back in my previous shop, and then but the bigger thing I've been experiencing is trying to get a new thing going. I'm switching accounts and all the rest. It's painful. I mean, it's easier for me to file taxes, deal with the state, than just get product. And it shouldn't be that bad. So I'm hoping that some of these things that desperately need to be fixed for 15 years now. I mean, when I had a shop back in the 90s and then took about a 10-year break and came back and got another shop, I was shocked that nothing changed. It's like, oh, I know this system completely because it's the same system.
Yeah.
And I think it's desperately needed some disruption. And so, I mean, this won't necessarily do it, but it can't hurt.
I think that the titles that you're seeing and the titles that people are complaining about, what Brian Hibbs refers to as a tiny slate of garbage, I think that's because this is really a test balloon. They don't want to put, all their eggs into one basket into something they've never tested before. They want to see if this distribution works.
Well, and I think they're also taking into consideration all the other retailers who can't sell right now. They're not really missing out on a lot right now.
Yeah.
That's true. So you're in California where everything's closed. You're in California where Brian is, and I keep bringing his name up because we're going to go through his points that he brought up in a little bit here. What are your thoughts on, hey, Michael's going to get some books sent to him and you're not?
Well, I think if he had an outreach that is somehow in my area, I'd be upset.
Yeah, I don't think I'm taking any business away from you.
But when we're talking about like internet sales, all right, how about this? All right, let's just theoretically, my customer wants to know if, what's going on with the comics, and they find out about DCBS. And then they say, oh, hey, by the way, you can order from us without even going to your comic store. That kind of sucks. So that's kind of a thing, I think, oh, it doesn't affect us. It does affect us. They've been selling discounted stuff. Like when you don't have a storefront, you can do all sorts of crazy stuff. And that kind of stuff. And then Midtown is in New York, right? I hear there's other comic stores out in New York. And that's like really feeding one store and making them like king shit, man. It's kind of not cool. I mean, I don't have to worry about it because I'm not out on the East Coast. And there is you're saying, hey, you can't have a conglomerate, or Mike's saying you can't have like a bunch of people running this crazy business that is comic stores because there's so many heads. Comic store owners are pretty headstrong, no matter what way they go. Brian Hibbs, there you go. I have my own beliefs. Michael has his, and you can't. I mean, if we could just get together and just hang out and like really talk about what we need to get done, that might help. But it's really pie in the sky also, because the guy down the street's willing to ship when I'm not, and I thought we were all in this together, huh?
So Mike Barron, what are your thoughts on these two distributors that are technically retailers themselves? It seems like they kind of have the option of taking the lion's cut of these books and servicing themselves and then doing that before they service everybody else.
I wish them every success. I think competition is good, but the real problem is that the comics that are being offered are not compelling. There's nothing out there that's a must-have comic, like Frank Miller's original Tales of the Dark Knight, or going back further, Bernie Wright's Swamp Thing, or Barry Smith's Conan the Barbarian, and all up through the 80s. And even in the 90s, there were must-have comics. When I look at the slate of comics today, and I have to say, guys, I don't read many comics. What I read is what people post on our comic book boards, and usually they post them to say, look at this, isn't this appalling? and I see a lot of that stuff. But I'm not hearing any buzz of a comic that everybody has to have. And this is primarily a failure of writing, because the art has always been good. But the goal of the writer should be, number one, is the goal is to entertain, and that should be foremost in his mind, overshadowing everything else. My goal is always to grab the reader by the throat and drag him into the narrative to the exclusion of all else. And comics aren't doing that these days. The essential question in fiction is, what happens next? Well, if the reader isn't drawn into the story, doesn't sympathize or empathize with the character, and can't wait to see what happens next, then the comic is a failure.
So, and you're working on books right now, which I would assume would be listed. Are they going to be listed in Diamond, or are you going the crowdfunding route?
We're doing strictly crowdfunding. And as far as I can see, that's the only growth industry in comics right now.
And you don't have to worry about a distributor taking the ball and leaving the court.
No, but having done it before, fulfillment is a bitch. You can
I've had some Kickstarter and Indiegogo too.
Yeah, you can hire a company to do it. That's very expensive, and they take a big chunk. Or you can do it yourself, which means you're sitting home all weekend long addressing packages, which I don't mind. I mean, we're all stuck at home anyway.
Well, fortunately, I was lucky on mine. I had the publisher come down to my store to mail out all the fulfillment.
All this crowdfunding success and a lot of people going that way. How do retailers feel about that? Is that an oncoming nightmare that's like just really far away that I don't want to worry about it yet, or is it something that you guys want to address? Want to find a way to get those crowdfunded books into retail stores and say, hey, don't forget about us? What's the prevailing thought here?
One thing we did on my Kickstarters, we had levels for retailers. There was some activity. Well, the Edgar Rice Burroughs 100-year art chronology that I did had a huge retailer support on that one. My Wild Stars had some, but not a lot. So there, we are taking that into consideration, at least on mine, to let's make some packages available for retailers where they can buy them at a wholesale and turn the profit they expect.
Yeah, I think, I've talked about this before. I think crowdfunding and comic shops are not enemies. I think they work hand in hand. I mean, the reality is, if you're a comic shop and you are, you're angry at crowdfunding in some way because you think it's going to circumvent you, then I'm saying you're looking at it wrong. Crowdfunding is going to happen whether you want it to or not. It is a method to get something produced. It's a method for a creator to get a comic out, and it should be. I think there's nothing wrong with it. It is, evolution is going to continue to happen. The trick is, as a retailer, say, kind of turn it around. How do I tap into that? Can I push to have a retailer tier in the Kickstarter, the Indiegogo, or whatever it is? Can I promote? How do I build up an indie cred in my shop? How do I find local creators maybe who I can get some local buzz that are doing these crowdfunded comics and route them into me? If somebody's going to buy a crowdfunded comic, then getting this person into the shop, even if you're not making a heavy margin on that crowdfunded comic, but you're doing some attach rate of some additional things into your store, that's how you should be thinking, because most people are not going to come in and buy one comic then leave and nothing else. It's like Nick was saying, there's lots of old, new and old, maybe more old comics there to entice them with. So do that, get them in the shop and do that. But I always find it peculiar when retailers look at crowdfunding and say, well, this is my enemy. It's like, you can't have all the enemies in the world. They're not your enemy.
Yeah.
The enemy
Michael, what's your last name?
Michael Tierney. Tierney, Tierney.
Yeah, you'll find him on ICV too. Michael, you're also an Overstreet contributor.
Yeah, I've been an Overstreet Price Guide advisor since the 90s. You'll always find a market report probably at the front of every guide since they've had them. Then, of course, I do a lot of Wild Stars. I've got a website, www.thewildstars. That's some comics I published since the 80s. Got like 4 books out of them now, a combination of graphic novels and novels. And one of the things else I was going to kind of point out unique about the crowdfunding is Indiegogo and Kickstarter are 2 different crowds. I was amazed on the last Wild Stars project that Krasova published of mine for the 35th anniversary sets. He did the Indiegogo first. And, then when he did the Kickstarter after that, like I said, it was completely different crowds. And the Kickstarter was not affected by having done the Indiegogo. It was kind of amazing.
Well, yeah, there's Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And I think the difference there is almost, we lost somebody there. We lost Perch. Maybe he'll come back. I think he was skipping like a little vinyl record there, and he's going to come back in. But you've also got, between the two, you've got Comicsgate and crowdfunded comics and Comics Space Gate now, apparently. all fighting with each other and being competitive. Michael, you were the only person in ICV2 quoted today that came out in favor of this new distribution system. Heidi McDonald posted your tweets, or your quotes rather, at Comix Beat, preceded and followed by all the retailers who hated the whole thing. And the fact that you were open, not quarantined, and able to sell comics.
Yeah.
And she ended up saying, following up your quotes with, that there is the privilege of not being quarantined right there.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that.
There,
I feel sorry for the other stores that are quarantined. I mean, it's like I'm a certified master scuba diver, and one thing that you learn about scuba diving is when the other person's drowning, he's going to try to drown the person next to him. And so, I hate that some stores feel like, you got to drown with us. Like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I can be open. I've got payroll I got to make. I've got bills I got to pay. I'm,
Right.
I know they do too, but they don't have payroll. I guess but I've got customers who are expecting me to take care of them, and that's what I'm trying to do.
I got to
Damn it,
bug
the
off,
Titanic
boys.
is going
Thank you.
Do
Thank
you
you,
have a
Mike.
book
Appreciate
coming
having you
out,
here.
Mike Barron?
I
You have a
bunch.
Nexus book?
Yeah, I do.
What's up with
Next-
that?
Oh, here, I'll just I'll post it in messages in RJ's feed, and he can show it to you. Thank you for asking. We're going to crowdfund that. It's all written. It's pretty good.
I can get you a solo shot, Mike.
Just to freak you out. Is there art inside it?
No, but dude did the cover. There it is. If you can bring that over to StreamYard. But I also have two novels coming out from Wolfpack. One is a Western called Curse of the Black Rose, which is about a sect of killer nuns on the southern border at the turn of the century. And the other is Florida Man 2.
Are those crowdfunded?
No, Wolfpack is my regular publisher. They
Okay.
published Florida Man and my 7 biker novels and my Westerns. But the Westerns are under a pseudonym, A.W. Hart. Chuck Dixon did one. There's a whole bunch of guys doing them.
Awesome. That's good to know.
But thank you for having me, boys. I got to skedaddle.
Well, it's good seeing you there, Mike. I've
appreciate
sold
having
your
you
work as long as you've been doing it, and it's
Thank
nice
you,
to
Mike.
get to talk to you.
I will
Yeah,
be
Mike.
reaching out.
You're a legend, Mike. Always much respect.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks
Appreciate
for coming on.
Well, speaking of online sales, I ran into something I didn't even know existed this week. Have you ever heard about eBay trying to shut you down because they say you're selling too much? That happened to me.
With me.
They said you've been listing and selling too much. I'm like, I thought that was kind of the point. I got them to double my levels, but I was like, and they're like, try to keep it down to this for at least the next 30 days. I'm like, next 30 days. After that, I probably won't be caring about selling on eBay as much right now. This is the time period when I've got the time to do it.
That is absurd that they would even say something like that.
Yeah,
Because they're getting 10%. What are they complaining about?
yeah.
They want
All told,
50%.
you lose about a third between them and PayPal.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then they're like, well, you're selling too much. Like, no, I'm not. Come on, that's what the whole point here.
That's crazy.
Right. Well, I want to address these discussion points that everybody's been talking about. I'm going to try to bring them up. I've edited them down to the salient points because I can only put so much in a banner here for discussion. But this is from Brian Hibbs. He put this on his Facebook page. Brian Hibbs runs Comix Experience in San Francisco. I don't know how far that is from Berkeley, so I don't want to come across as one of those, oh, you're from England. Do you know the McCartneys?
I do actually know him. I went to his, yeah, I went to the store's birthday celebration last year, and it was a cool moment. It was like 30 years or something, and maybe it was 20. I can't remember. Anyway, so he's been around a long time, and obviously we talked about how he has done some really cool things for the comics store community. FOC program wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him, championing that. And then Mike, you were talking about how he got, wasn't it a settlement also that happened at that time?
Yeah, during the Bill Jemas era, they were not living up to their own terms of trade, which it meant if they changed the content, they were supposed to let us know on FOC, give us a chance to adjust the orders. They weren't doing it anyway, and they weren't offering returns. And so they're in violation of their own terms of trade. And Brian single-handedly went after him. And then when it came time for the judge, said, okay, well, here's what Marvel's saying they're going to pay you guys back. I need somebody to verify that these are legitimate numbers. And I was the only guy in America who could actually come up with his invoices that far back. Say, okay, well, here's verification, everything they're saying. But I got free comics for a month out of that. That was all on Brian. He did a great job for me there.
Yeah, so before we label him a crazy kook, just remember that.
And I'm glad you laid that groundwork, because we come not to bury Brian, but to but to discuss him.
Guys, it's Brian here. I mean, look, I'm closed too. Fuel's closed, so but I could still get a shipment in from UPS or whatever. I mean, I actually, my driver I have in my phone, and I just text him, do I have something? Or he'll let me know, hey, you got something this morning. I go, okay, I'll meet you at the shop, and I'm about 30 minutes away. And I can still get it in, and I'm still doing curbside or mail order. I do both. So I don't understand why Brian here is so upset then, because he could be doing the same thing. Unless you guys in California, unless cops are like totally like whipping you guys, saying you guys can't even accept something.
We're not so you can accept stuff, and there are people that are shipping stuff out, but let's be realistic. That is not essential. If things have to get out there and your stuff is, no offense to anybody, I'm just saying this is like my philosophy. Plus, this is a vacation for me, so what are you going to do?
I could use vacation.
Exactly. I mean, thank you for doing your job, man. I mean, someone has to be out there doing it. But, I'm not supposed to be out there. I'm not going to, receive orders. It's just not worth it. And I have other stuff I have to do right now, so it just doesn't really jive with what is going on as far as like shipping just a small amount of books. But I still signed up,
Yeah.
If I have a customer that's going to say, get me that or not, I'll get it.
Yeah. I've noticed that there's a tendency a lot in the comic book industry of retailers, maybe sometimes with just one store. I know for me, having two stores in two different cities, I'll tell a big difference just from one store to another. And but I've seen a lot of other retailers around the country who just have a single store. They're like, if you're not doing it the way I'm doing it, you're doing it wrong. And there's just so much of that attitude of like, well, if I decide that I don't want to sell these books from this new distributor, then you shouldn't either. And I'm sorry, it just doesn't work that way.
I feel that's why a lot of times comic store owners just can't get together because it is working for you, and I'm like, that's not how it works for me. Well, is it working for me? In my bubble, it is, I guess.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
what drove Martin Luther to nail the proclamation up on the door.
There's different regions. I mean, in many cases, and you see this when you get together at Comic Pro or these other places, or even Facebook groups when they're chatting, and people have their region, their thing they're thinking about, and for some, it's a struggle to think beyond that region. And great, your shop, your market, your store, your customers, your long-term pull box, whatever it happens to be. That's not how the rest of the country works, and so. You can't. One size doesn't fit all in this industry, and it doesn't fit all in any industry like this.
Right.
So to assume otherwise is kind of crazy. I'm sympathetic. Definitely clearly, because I'm in a weird holding pattern because I can't close on a lease, and I've got these boxes piling up. It's madness. But I'm sympathetic to it. But at the same point, I don't think that somebody in Wyoming or wherever it might be needs to be punished in the same way and have their business shut down because I can't open my business. That's not fair at all.
Right.
And maybe that sucks for me. It does. But what? Everybody's got to live by my stuff. That's the path to insanity if we keep that up.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. People think I should run my store like they run theirs. Well, they're under quarantine, so why am I still open? Well, because I'm not under quarantine. My customers are coming in expecting me to be there. Not very often because I don't have anything new to sell. And somebody wants to be in quarantine, or somebody just says, like you, I don't want to ship out. that's fine. That's your call. And I'm doing my call for what works best for my customer in my environment. And like I was saying earlier, just my 2 stores, it's different what one store to another. Like I used to have one store that sold DC big time, and then when they did the new 52, that store lost so many customers. And the other store gained them. Some other store that used to be the Marvel store became a DC store. My DC store became a Marvel store. So one store I saw a boycott on the whole change, and the other one they embraced it. So, just the patterns are going to be different just depending on your customer base.
And your stores aren't that far apart. I mean, I used to stop in one. I lived in Little Rock, and if you weren't there, I'd drive over to the other one.
Right? Yeah. So you're like me. Just like it's one big city, but there's a river right in the middle. The Arkansas River cuts between the 2 cities. And to ask people from North Little Rock to go to Little Rock, or people from Little Rock to go to North Little Rock, when you ask them to cross that river, it's like you're asking them to go to the dark side of the moon. They're like, "Oh, I never go to that side of the river." It's strange.
So,
It's true.
So Brian's statement here was most of the country is shut down and will not be ready to open on the date of 4/28, which is true here in Illinois. We are staying shut down until June 1st. Lucky us. And that's the date that DC says they'll be shipping comics again. So I guess the consensus is that it's, okay, so what? It's going to be some people will get them and some people won't. He follows that up. He's just getting started there.
Yeah.
He says DC itself is in Burbank, California, and they're not able to go into the offices themselves. The notion that they're expecting us to be open when they aren't is horrifying to me. You scared, Yule?
I'm always scared. It's comic books. I think this idea that, DC is doing this is just really trying to throw a bone for the people that are open right now. It's, it's, look, if you
I'm
can
grabbing
get exactly. All right. So Daphne Byrne comes in, right? And maybe you have the other issues and you can actually sell them right now because there's nothing new, right? This is actually something that can benefit you with extra add-on sales. Oh, if you like Daphne Byrne, maybe try this, and it's just a way to get them back in your store for at least a few minutes with some new material. I mean,
signs of life.
Right. And I think the thing that worries me the most is I really don't feel 100% on Diamond and what they're doing. Even saying that they're going to be coming out with books. I mean, what are we talking about? Those 3 weeks or 4 weeks of books that are in your warehouses right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then are they printing comics right now? I don't think they are. It's going to be a while. And then what? That's my
DC haven't done
question.
this, so I guarantee you, Diamond wouldn't even be thinking about trying to ship again in May. We'd be looking at August or September.
Yeah. I mean,
it does work.
It's Yeah, I mean, it's a weird comment. I mean, look, I think there are plenty of tech companies where people are working from home right now. Should they stop working because they can't go into the office because people who sell their stuff? I mean, if Best Buy is shut down, should all the manufacturing stop? That's crazy. There are people who are open. Some people have mail order service systems. Some do not. The comic shops that do not, that's a bummer. And I mean, I'm not trying to be callous about it, but if you don't have that, that doesn't mean that everybody else who does has to stop. This is weird logic. I get it, but it just doesn't make business sense.
Yeah. And if Brian and Heidi don't care for the fact that I'm going to be selling the comics and I'm excited about it, they don't buy anything in my stores. My customers who do are ones who matter to me, and those are the people I'm servicing, and those are the people that I will plan around.
Right.
So Brian continues. Point 3, the distributors, he puts in quotes, that DC has picked are not, by which he means they are not distributors. It is Midtown and DCBS, the number 1 and number 2 retailers of comics. These are competitors to the overwhelming majority of direct market retailers. So, Michael, you're competing against New York and wherever DCBS is out of?
Oh, boy, but they're worried.
Theoretically. I mean, this is almost like when Jim Zub is saying that his comic book got downloaded like 300,000 times or something. That's sales that he would have got in the comic store. That's not how that works.
No, it's not.
But theoretically, this is. I mean, again, I feel that like if a customer of mine realizes that they can, just have it delivered to their house in this world, in this environment, That's a bonus. I don't have to leave my house. Nobody's leaving their house. So there are aspects to it I don't like. And what about like My Comic Shop? They distribute comics. I mean, they do that. I mean, why weren't they included, or were they? And there was a nebulous factor to like who was actually being the distributor by saying Lunar and the other company. Like who are these guys?
Mhm.
And then they're Midtown.
Yeah.
And that's a valid point, by the way. I think that I agree with him. So there's some things that we don't know, and contractually we may never know. I mean, you're not privy to all these things, but it was rolled out clunky in some cases. I think Bleeding Cool jumped on it and tried to make it very sinister. Of like, I made some calls and I found that these guys are secretly Midtown. Like 20 minutes later, the press release comes out from DC. It's like, maybe you guys, I don't know. You framed that in a very curious way. But if it's true that Midtown and DCBS get shop data and use it to their advantage and other things, and you've got lawsuits and other things on your hands, I mean, this could get messy. So in theory, you're DC, you're owned by AT&T, you're anemic to liability and lawsuits and other pieces. You would expect that somewhere in these agreements there is some conflict of interest clauses. There's some separation of business. It's one reason why you would set up a sister company, is precisely to avoid these kind of legal entanglements, why you'd want to do that. So, I mean, I'm assuming it's there. I'd like to do more than assume. I'd like to be proven that it's there. I think that's what Yule's kind of wanting too, is like,
that's pretty much it. Yeah.
that's proof. And so I would expect that some proof will come, because again, I don't think DC is stupid, and more importantly, I don't think AT&T is stupid, that they would willingly kind of set up a scenario that's likely to come bite them if there's signs of collusion. But I mean, we'll see. But I mean, it's a legitimate question to ask for sure.
And my stupid question, because I'm the only guy here not a retailer who doesn't sell comic books. If Midtown and DCBS are retailers themselves, where do they get their comic books from?
Yeah, I mean, themselves in theory. So again, this is why you have a sister company, with a division of labor where one's got to pass the other. And then I think you're going to have some contractual language in there and some way to audit and prove it, that they're not getting deeper discounts than somebody else purely by nature of them owning, being a parent. There has to be some firm language in there. But again, can people cheat? Yeah, absolutely. There could be cheating here, and I think if there is, it would likely come out. But that's probably the big unknown question that has to be answered at some point.
I always felt like the whole variant cover thing. There's always those stores that had like like Midtown or something, DCBS variant. Mm-hmm. And, it almost made little stores feel like, oh man, that's the way you have to go and stuff like that. And I don't know, I've never really bit into it. I've seen many people have success with it. I always feel like when I do stuff like that, I'm not very good at it. Yeah. But, they kind of drive that industry, and it's a little unrealistic also.
Yep. Guaranteed, Midtown and DCBS, when they begin distributing comics, they're going to have nothing but CGC 9.0 and above grade comics.
Yep.
Better be 9.8.
Oh, this one's bent. This one's going to Dave Dyer.
Oh.
Well, that would be a lot of effort, and I don't think anybody in the warehouse would care that much.
That's true. We are actually making an assumption here, perhaps, that these guys have spare time and are super clever about this stuff, and that has not been nothing against those groups, but that's not been my impression when I've met people from those locations.
I've told some of you guys before how I grew up in Sparta, Illinois, in the 70s, and that's where World Color Press was, and all the comic books in the world by anybody came out of that town, and we never had to buy comic books at all because everybody who worked there just brought them home by the trash bag folds, and you just went to the yard sales when you wanted new comics.
Oh yeah, when I first started up, I went to my first account was with Pacific Comics, and I drove up to Sparta to make a connection with them, get to know them, and their distribution warehouse was in an old fire station. So you had the pole where you could go from the second to the first floor, and it was run by a guy named Ken Kruger, who used to one of the guys who helped start Comic Con, and he invited me over to visit his house and his family after they closed. and he had bought, I don't know if he bought or leased, but an old hotel, probably a 30-room hotel. And him and his family lived in a couple rooms at the very front of the hotel, and the whole rest of it was filled with his book collection. And in one room, I saw string-tied bundles of 50, maybe 20 bundles of 50 of Wolverine #1. String-tied, just thrown up against the wall. I could not get him to sell me one of those.
There's only one hotel in Sparta, so I know the one you're talking about.
Okay.
It was a motel. It was all one layer, wasn't it?
No, this was a 2-story building.
Oh, okay. Okay, I know where that's at. Moving on. Point number 4. If it starts to show up. Yes, we can show it. Come on. Yeah. Point 4, we've been given 4 days to set up accounts and get right with our new overlords.
No bias there.
Yeah, you can unleash an entire new way of doing comics in that short of a time span.
You can't.
That's he's right on that. I mean, that's what we were saying. Was it's why it's so fast, and it's not enough information, and and here I am. I signed up like Michael. I signed up right away, and got them all the information, and went ahead and put in my first order with them, which was Batman Giant #4 and reprints of Batman '89 and reprint of Nightwing '70 and Daphne Byrne. So I put my order in. There it is. But yeah, it came out of left field, and then like I said, it was just really your DC Comics been canceled. DC says no, you're fine with us. So yeah, and they're just, and then Diamond says, yeah, you're still fine with us. And then it feels like a test market because you can only order these 4 or 5 titles, and that's it. And I'm just like I said, where's everything else? When's that supposed to come out?
Yeah. It was clearly rushed out very quickly, and this is one of those things where there wasn't enough time. There were a bunch of shops around in this area where the shop owner was like grappling with trying to get money out of the government or doing these other things, and this announcement blew past them, and they're like, oh, it's too late now. What?
Yeah.
It went way too quick. That is absolutely true. And I also think, like you said, there wasn't enough information about, okay, so what goes where? I may be short on cash, and is this order really canceled? Am I double buying? What am I doing? And there weren't, but on one hand, you had people like chomping at the bit to DC, like announce a plan, announce something. You got to announce something. You got to come on. We need things moving right now, tomorrow. And then here we get to, they do it and they kind of shotgun it out without enough information. And so now it's like, whoa, slow down. So it is I envy their position, but it clearly was rolled out in too much haste. Absolutely.
Reed Troutman is in the chat. He asks, is there any other industry on earth that has a single point of distribution? And I would have to say, no, I don't think there is other than comics. And, we've seen now what happens when something can take that out. I mean, we didn't have to have a nationwide virus for this to happen. We could have just had, one well-placed flood. And we would be in this same boat.
No, this is needed. I mean, this was a dumb way to run business. That's this. I mean, with all the factors that's global, that has this level of footprint, that has this level of media behind it. That has. I mean, what's amazing is that you have DC and Marvel owned by mega corporations. I mean, some of the biggest in the world, and their output channel for the comics, which is feeding the IP for their movies and their media plans, was operated by one entity. That's insane. I mean, if you think about it, that is absolutely insane. And it was never going to hold for long. I think everybody hoped that it would gradually change, not be done in the middle of a pandemic.
That's sort of like all the power plants in the country generating all the power, sending it to one substation that then sends it out to the grid for the rest of the country. You would never see anybody approve a plan like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there could be a silver lining on all this, and that maybe Diamond and DC, or not Diamond, but DC and Marvel will realize that hey, maybe a monopolized distribution system is not the best way to go. Now, when there were like 7 distributors, Diamond was far away the best of them, and that's why I used them. And I'm sure once they have competition, they have incentive to try to do better, then that they will. And I've had a good relationship with Diamond. I'm not knocking on them at all. I'm very unhappy with the service I get out of Olive Branch. I mean, 10 to 25% damages and shortages every week is just abysmal, and it's crippling. And they hurt me just so badly with that. I mean, it's just like I'm chopped out at the knees every week. And so I'm hoping that will improve. And if it doesn't improve, maybe these new guys will do a better job. I don't plan to stop doing business with Diamond. I hope I don't have to, but at the same time, things need to improve.
They do, and unfortunately, this is one of those cases where you may need this prod to make it improve. I mean, I can tell you that the setup, and I don't think anybody here has had to go through this, but setting up a new shop right now through this system is insanity. I mean, it's not a good system. It feels like it's gotten worse. Well, that may be my age and imagination, but it's this is not the way to do it. So I'm hoping that through this process we get to forced improvements.
Oh yeah, back when there were like several distributors, all you had to do was like order at least $50 of graphic novels. They would ship to you freight free, and you'd have them in 2 days. So it was very easy to be competitive with that upstart Amazon. Well, then when we got to a monopolized distribution system, all right, now you're paying the freight. Well, next thing you know, there's no profit if you're doing that. And if you wait, group it with your regular order, well, now you're telling the customer they're going to have to wait a couple of weeks. Where Amazon says we'll get it to you in a couple of days. So we've been at a very competitive disadvantage for quite a while now.
Now, this is just DC that everyone's talking about using these two new distributors. Is there any thought or plan that in 2 weeks from now, you guys might be saying, oh, look, there's an indie that's going to jump on board with this, or Marvel, is going to use them, or God forbid, even another distributor for them?
God, I hope so.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that Marvel actually did go through DCBS already, but I could be wrong. Again, this whole nebulous, information, but not really all of it all at the same time. Just hitting you, and it's rumor and innuendo. But I had heard that like Marvel was at least being distributed by somebody, one of the two.
Yeah, I think Marvel has that relationship. I'm not sure where it exactly sits, but there is a relationship there. And I mean, I would be absolutely shocked if we didn't see Image join in on this sooner rather than later. Some of the other indies. I think the last one table will be Marvel for a handful of reasons. And the biggest one is that just their parent tends to just be very anemic in changing contracts and exclusivity. They don't do it quickly on anything, on licensing and anything. So I think they'd be the last one to kind of come to the table. But eventually, that pressure is going to tip. I mean, it's like you're saying that it's not going to hold with one publisher. And I would be shocked if Marvel just let DC run the table for 6 weeks without any other books competitive. That would be, I mean, DC would love it, but.
For once, they'd be up on Marvel. Money wise, yeah. I did it on Daphne Byrne.
Well, DC's going to definitely outsell them this month with Daphne Byrne and
exactly
reprint and Batman reprint.
Fire.
Sweep the marketplace. 100% of the market.
Daphne Byrne outselling the Avengers.
Yeah, Daphne Byrne's going to be a top 5 seller this month.
Yeah, It will be. You're right.
So why not sell from Amazon then?
What'd you say, Howard?
Rusty's asking, why not sell from Amazon then? Would warehousing at Amazon eat up more than paying for freight?
Well, Amazon up till now wasn't even shipping anything out unless it was essentials.
Yeah. But the other day, I had ordered a record, an LP record, and a shower curtain, and I got it in 2 days with Prime. So apparently they're not prioritizing right now.
Yeah, they've opened it back up now, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're speeding back up again. But once again, when you start selling like via eBay or Amazon, they all have their hands in the cookie jar. So you're only getting X amount. So if I'm selling a comic at $3.99 and my margin's already crappy on that, now I have to give a percentage of it to Amazon.
Yeah, it's not worth your time.
Yeah, or eBay. It's not worth it. It's not.
And that's exactly what
selling on eBay. Yeah, but so's everybody else right now selling on eBay. And so next thing you know, you're cutting your neck to spite your face, and I'm cutting this bottle of vodka down to $5 instead of the fact that I paid $20 for it, you know? And I'm not going to drink all this tonight.
Got to save some for tomorrow night.
Exactly.
There's always tomorrow.
So it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. And everybody is selling comics on eBay and Amazon right now.
Yeah. That's Brian's fifth point here. He says that the margins are crappy enough that making a profit in comics retail is hard to begin with. And everything is magnified and multiplied when all you can do is mail order.
Yeah.
So
I think he's looking at it from like a store in the city point of view, which I am also, or at least I was until I move, which won't be the same. And, you know, I don't have to pay those exorbitant prices that you have to in San Francisco. Berkeley's bad enough. Hey, man, same thing I'm assuming with, you know, New York, some places in, you know, big cities, Chicago. I don't know where else, you know. It's got to be expensive. And if you're only doing mail order and you're not like some crazy DCBS or something, you know, my comic shop, how are you going to do that? Especially if they don't know you. And then, you know, there is obviously eBay and things that you can do. But, yeah, you don't want to be mail order only in, what, $5,000, $10,000 for whatever, you know, whatever his rent may be. You know, that's a lot a month.
You don't pay that kind of rent just to do mail order now.
No, exactly. And I've kind of felt like one of the things we're doing is moving to a smaller location because we want to do more like conventions and not be in the store all the time. You know, breathe some air, you know, do some, you know, online stuff so I can not have to be in a store all the time. And we were already going to like go that way. It's just we hadn't set up before, you know, Corona. And now we have kind of like, we're in this holding pattern again, kind of like Perch about like moving to this other location. So that's where my situation's different than Brian's because he's planning on staying there. And, you know, you can't do that on Daphne Byrne. You need some Batman. And you know, he's like, but he's not going to do that anyway because he's going through Diamond and, you know, he's already stated what he wants to do as far as that's concerned. He's happy with Diamond, I guess.
And while you were talking, my phone just flashed up. I just sold another item on eBay. So I've been making money virtually just while we've been talking.
There you go.
More money.
Going to take 10% of it. So
Yeah, well.
I guess you got to pay Guido, right?
That's it. And Luigi.
He made 90% of something, which is better than nothing.
Yeah, I guess. I like every little penny of my money, and I hate giving it to a middleman.
Oh, I hate credit card fees. I mean,
I do too.
Yeah,
Look, even our website's going to cost us X amount of money to run our website, and I'm still going to have to pay a credit card company to run the credit, you know, for the fees. So no matter what, it's never a win-win situation. But I'm sick and tired of eBay, and I'm sick and tired of the double dipping that they do. And I'm fed up with it. So, but good for you, Michael.
I'm doing what I have to during the quarantine. Even though I'm not in quarantine, but a lot of the country is. So
well, I will.
A lot of virtual buying.
You know, if you're down with it, you know, Instagram is a way that people are going. There's live auctions on those. People on YouTube are doing live auctions, and you know, there's even Facebook. There's some fun groups that
I bought from Facebook Live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are ways to get around eBay, and it's, you know, you're already paying for cable, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not even paying for cable. With that, all the free channels you can get these days, forget it.
Yes, sir.
I think Brian's sixth point here is already out of date. So he might have been, I think this has already been clarified. His point 6 was DC is asking us to abandon Diamond. That's hard to say. I don't think that's true. I think they're you have a choice.
Never use that kind of rhetoric.
Yeah, it's. I mean, this is one of the things that kind of raised a lot of eyebrows, I know, and frustrated people. Is this was the Bleeding Cool story that ran that said that you know, Diamond has been kicked out, Diamond has been pushed to the side, and it was word, and now it's coming back and going. We didn't mean they they were leaving Diamond. We just mean they kind of metaphorically kicked them to the curb. And it's, you know what you said. But definitely got a lot of people wound up. And no, they're definitely not leaving Diamond. But it's been crazy to, I don't know, it's weird how hard people bought into that so quickly. But actually, maybe to your point earlier, there was not a lot of information going out in the early days very well. So, yeah.
So that's, old news, fake news, people. DC is not asking you to abandon Diamond. Yeah. Very note to a Tuesday release is a pure FU to the channel that I'm pretty sure is 2/3 of the mechanism of their cash flow. I don't even know what this word salad comes out to nutritionally. So maybe you retailers can speak retailer and understand what he's saying here. So there's a Tuesday. It's a New Comic Tuesday now instead of New Comic Wednesday.
No, I think this guy here is this still this Brian dude?
Yeah. This is all his Facebook rant post.
It just means that we're like most of us got our deliveries. If you pay Diamond, they're extra $5 a week or $5. Yeah, you got your delivery on Tuesday to be ready for Wednesday. With this whole new switch around, they're basically saying if you got it on Tuesday, you can sell it right away. So I think.
One thing people are forgetting too is Diamond started that the last couple of weeks. They did ship. They said, "Hey, when you get it on Tuesday, put it out for sale immediately."
Yeah, and exactly, and this whole announcement too is that they're not saying it's Tuesday forever. In fact, it even states that for the duration of the closures, when you get your comics, you can sell them. It's purely when you get them, you don't want to hang around the store, arrange for people to come in. You get them, you move them because you don't know what your store hours are like, anything else. This is a nice move. This idea of like you change it from Tuesday to Wednesday. Now that, I mean, cash flow is going to come when the new comics come. So if you sell them on Monday, the money is going to be on Monday. If you sell them on Sunday, the money is going to be on Sunday. It's like whenever the new comics come out, that's when the loyalists are going to show up to pick up their comics, and that's where the cash flow is going to be. So what do you mean Wednesday? It's silly.
Even on when Diamond said you could sell them immediately, I still only sold them on Wednesdays, because it took me all day to get them processed and put into my system and all of that to be able to track my sales. So I just told everybody, you can get them on Wednesday. Well, I can't get them today. I can get them on Wednesday.
I had customers call me say, "I heard Diamond said you could sell them," and I was like, "Well, give me time to process them. Come in about an hour."
Exactly.
I'm old enough to remember when New Comic Book Day was Thursday. So
it's been all over the week over the years.
Exactly. The horror, it was on Thursday.
There are just so many titles being shipped right now. When Marvel was talking about maybe they're going to cut back a third, they can easily cut back a third, and it's not going to affect my bottom line at all. Because those are probably all loser titles that I was just having to carry just to offer selection, and a lot of times not even hitting break even on because sometimes you couldn't order low enough. You think, okay, this is going to be a dog. Oh, it's more of a dog than that. I mean, they've just been making so much junk with no sales history, no chance for people to develop an interest as a reader. And the industry has really been shooting itself in the foot a long time. But it's us retailers on the front line who've been taking all the bullets for quite a while. And so I'm hoping some good stuff washes out of this thing.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
No, just that. I mean, I think they could trim their. I mean, it's funny how the conversation shifted away from this, but like, I mean, somebody asked me yesterday of how many comics a week would be a good amount to consume. If you as a retailer could just pick how many comics you want to get in, forget about the money for a minute. Let's just assume that your revenue is going to be the same. Just how many could you manage and properly market and everything else? And I came up with it was like 25. I'd be happy, which is a tiny number, I know.
That's what it used to be back in the early 80s, Marvel and DC and Independence combined. That's not the case anymore. Marvel and DC each put out about 25 a week.
I guess it depends on how much rent is in my location. Because I have to, in my location right now, I have to appeal to a larger array of customers. I always dream of having that store that only sells like superheroes. It would be so much easier. But, I have to know what, the new Sandman is, Wicked and Divine, stuff like that. And then the younger readers that come in, I have a lot of families that come in. It's pretty crazy, like, how many comics are actually available.
The thing
customers don't know. Even to this day, they still don't know. boggles my mind.
Yeah, then you take like a title, Avengers of the Wasteland, kind of playing off like Old Man Logan. That was a dog book for me. I mean, Avengers, it didn't hardly sell at all. I mean, how did it perform for you guys?
No, I mean it's got its niche audience. I mean,
Yeah.
you're ordering for the 5 or less people who are pulling it, and you may have one or two lonely copies up on the shelf. I mean, you can get away with it, but it's like it is baffling where, and you just kind of wonder. You're like, well, these titles sell really well consistently. You know, the characters sell really well, but let's create a sequel to this lower tier selling book because somebody demanded it. I mean, who demanded
Yeah,
it?
I ordered what I thought was way too light. I've still got copies sitting around. So
Yeah, I know. Same here.
You know,
Yeah, I hope that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll be quiet.
one of the things when I worked in manufacturing, and for different companies that sold different products to retail chains, was that they had this thing called a planogram, which was where if you were going to go put makeup into a Walmart store, here you had your design for the shelf that you were allowed to have. You had to pay for that space. Marvel's figured out that they don't have to pay for space. They can ship a bunch of titles and crowd that space out. If they had to pay rent for their books to occupy real estate in your store, they might not put out as many books.
Yeah.
But that's my 2 cents of being a not retailer. Reed Troutman asked, do you think the guys at Bleeding Cool like the comics industry? My answer to that is that I think the guys at Bleeding Cool love the comics industry pretty much the same way the Pharisees loved Jesus, because without him they didn't have something to complain about and try to off. But once the monkey's dead, it's no fun shocking it anymore. So
Well, what I find so interesting with these sources for information like Bleeding Cool and all that, it's so bizarre that they're getting some of this information before even us comic book retailers are getting it. And I'll get text or Facebook Messenger from some of our customers going, "Wow, did you hear about what Diamond said about when they're gonna be shipping again?" And I'm like, "No." And then I'll go to my email like that day, and there's still nothing, and then it'll pop up a day later or 2 days later, and I'm like, how are these guys like Bleeding Cool getting their information so quickly? Somebody's got to be leaking it to them or whatever, because these retailers are not getting it on a timely fashion.
And we're not getting good information either.
Yeah.
No.
Batman 50. Wow.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I didn't believe it. I was like, yeah, they're touting this thing too much. I've just learned to distrust. Anytime they say something's big, it's not. When something is big, they won't give you a hint. And I ordered that like a regular issue, and I'm glad because I've still got copies. And I feel sorry for all these other retailers who put on extra help. The demand's going to be big. Ordered wedding cakes. And then the news breaks 2 days before we even get the blasted book. Hey, guess what? She's going to stiff him at the altar. And, the demand wasn't there. I mean, it was just like crickets, just no interest at all when we got the books. And all these retailers, we did all this stuff. Or some of them did. I didn't. But a lot of retailers, they were having early releases at midnight and all sorts of stuff. And, they lost their shirt on that. And, they were misled. Yeah. And it's crazy that can even happen to us.
No, if you're going to a wedding and somebody calls you the day before and says, "Oh, the bride backed out," you're not going to go to the wedding.
Yeah, it was a mess. I mean, and I'm very good friends with the owners over there at Golden Age Collectibles, which is, I think, the oldest comic shop. They build themselves that way. I'm always suspicious there. They're the big.
How long have they been around?
Oh, I can't forever. I mean, I'll grab a dates here when I'm not talking for you, but they're one of the older comic shops for sure. They and they're a centerpiece. They're right in Pike Place Market, so they have this built-in audience that's coming to watch the flying fish and so on. But I feel bad for them because they went all in, kind of because they have to. As the anchor store in the region, they have to go all in on everything. Whether it's the Secret Invasion T-shirts or whatever it happens to be. And it was just talking to that guy the day after. It's like, well, what are you going to do? This is the tax. It's like, it was such a mess. I wish the leaks would change. Bleeding Cool definitely has their sources. Over time, you get a pretty good idea of who their sources are because they're always coming from the same angle. But these sites that manipulate the whole situation always frustrate me.
Yeah,
moving on to the point. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
Well, we're in a business of relationship with Marvel and DC. but they treat us as an adversary and they give us more disinformation than they actually give us useful information. So right there, that's where the core of the problem starts. I don't care about the leaks. I just want to be actually told what's going on. It's like when Wolverine lost his adamantium. There was a dozen times they said, this might be the one. Well, I've just learned, I don't believe him. Sure enough, when he did get his adamantium back, not a hint. It was an instant sellout. We had no clue. And it's just a very adversarial relationship we have with Marvel and DC right now because they are not working with us. It's more like they're working against us.
Yeah, I agree. And then you got to find out about it from, like I said, the school, where they would let us know as retailers what the story arc is that I could, order based on that, knowing that that's going to be hot. And, but instead we hear about it right when Bleeding Cool tells us, and then my phone's ringing off the hook going, you got that N89.
Yeah, and I've always heard that the reason they don't want to give us this information is because they're afraid we're going to leak the information a couple of days before the actual release, which is what happens anyway. So I don't know what they're worried about.
Yeah.
My biggest selling book, this is back in like in '92, was The Death of Superman, when they said, hey, Superman's going to die. And back then you could believe them when they said it. And I ordered that. I thought I was crazy. But I mean, it was like the Attack of the Zombies the day that book came out. I could not even take the phone off the switch hook because I'd hit the switch hook and there's already another caller on there. It's like every person in the cities turned and walked to both my comic book stores. I'd never been slammed like that. Those were some of the busiest months I've ever had. And I was out by noon.
Yeah, we had lines around the corner. Shop I was managing at that time. I mean, it was insane.
But we knew to order a lot that was really going to happen. We don't know that anymore.
No, the solicitations actually made sense. The news from the publishers made sense. I mean, I talked about this a couple of days ago too. Like the previous catalog is such garbage. There's zero value to anyone. Yeah, and there's nothing that comes out of it. But I mean, Death of Superman, that was the happiest day of my life. I remember just the amount of money I made on that day, and I mean, can you imagine a scenario right now where you would have to put out something in your shop and say, I'm ordering massive on this, and still I need to limit the copies a customer can take? I mean, wouldn't that be wonderful if we were doing that every month?
Oh, that'd be great, yeah. Yeah, right now the preview, only useful information in it is the name of the writer, name of the artist, the description of the story. That means nothing because they don't really have anything to tell you. And if they do, they're going to just give you disinformation. Giant Size X-Men #1. This is going to be a next big book. A major event's going to happen in it. Nothing happened in it. I remember there was one book, the last time Marvel actually got me, and this will tell you how long ago it was, is that this issue of Spectacular Spider-Man features a major turning point in the relationship between Peter Parker and Mary Jane. Months from now, your customers will want to go back to see where it all began. Like, well, I don't know what it is, but sounds important. I better get some extra copies. Go through my 2-month shelf cycle. I'm pulling it off going, I didn't sell one extra copy of that. What was this it in there? I read it. Well, Mary Jane took up smoking cigarettes. Now, Mary Jane had been smoking Mary Jane. That might have had a little bit more interest. They gave us bad information and just built up something. And ever since then, I just never believe a thing they tell me.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian's 8th point. They could not have chosen a more half-assed and broken way of releasing comics. The only way to make money doing periodicals is to depend on the economies of scale. There's a business term.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to dissect it. I think it has again to do with like his one instance, like himself, and assuming that other stores have to be run the same way. And I think that's what this sounds like to me personally.
Sounds like a drowning man wanting to grab the guy with the air hose next to him, take him down with him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like to hope that, what he's saying, I mean, since he has the best intentions, I think, when he's doing this,
he makes a lot of good points sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot. And I mean, even in like things like this, there's something like, to take out of it. But again, I think it's him applying his situation on all the others out there.
Right.
Yeah, and I think by economies of scale, he's probably talking about the small list that's available.
Yeah,
you can't make money with that small list. You need the larger list of titles so that one can carry the other.
Again, this is for a smaller store. This is not for a city store.
I see that as more as being a difference to you and other stores who can't carry that type of material yet. Like, okay, we're not going to put out a whole lot of stuff where you're going to feel like you're missing out. We're just starting up a system and these baby steps. And
Mhm.
I agree.
I mean, yeah, there's a legitimate complaint to say that it was half-assed and broken in the announcement. Sure, agreed. But I mean, again, we had to start the ball somewhere. So,
yeah.
what do you
And
want?
you want to talk about half-assed announcement? This is Diamond. What we just shipped you is the last thing we're going to ship you. That's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, I mean, compared to the epic communication of Diamond and how perfect they are in every single way of explaining things to retailers, yeah, this was garbage town for sure.
I like Diamond. I don't care for the olive branch packing, but I like Diamond. I mean, I like Steve. I'm friends with him on Facebook. I think he's a good guy. But it's just competition. Breeds better performance. If you're running a 100-yard dash and you're only guy out there running, it's going to be a jog.
Mhm.
Yeah, why not? He goes on to talk about the shipping costs on this, and this is where he gets this tiny slate of garbage quote that we've seen tossed around. If it's more than free, then our already low margins are shot to shit. First of all, I don't think Diamond is shipping you guys free. In fact, I think one of the biggest complaints about overshipments from Marvel is that you're getting free comics, but Diamond's still charging you to ship you those free
Oh yeah,
comics.
they are.
Double
They are.
fun.
Yeah, and that's what drives me nuts. It's like I didn't ask you to send me free comics, and I'm being charged shipping for those free comics. So yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you guys have the same dynamic? This will happen to me. It happened to me. I remember when Wizard used to do it all the time too. I know what I can sell, but when all of a sudden I get this stack of extra copies, I sell less than what I normally would.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I hate it. I hate that.
New number one, okay, I can see that, but other stuff, not necessarily.
No, I mean,
then-
overships go right to half-price books. That's where those go.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, like I said, on the new number one, where we don't know what our sales are going to be, I don't mind the extras there. But on a long-running title where I know what my audience is, I know what I'm doing on that.
I agree.
Yeah, Heroes World was a very different situation. There's 100 different ways that's not analogous to what we have right now. And I mean, again, you want comics to sell, aren't comics coming out? Here's an option to get comics. You're not paying more than what you paid before. I don't know. I mean, it's your choice. It's America. You don't have to order. You wait for Diamond, whatever you want.
Yeah, if somebody doesn't want to, they can just wait on it. Nobody's forcing them to buy the books.
Yeah, I'm just worried about Diamond's future right now. And if I don't go ahead and deal with DCBS, am I going to be left out in the cold? I mean, again, it's all about the communication or lack thereof. And, the other problem with the whole Midtown thing is that DC's been involved, and they're probably the only company worse than Diamond at having real conversations about anything right now. And we just expect it from Marvel,
Well, Midtown's had an unfair advantage on all those other retailers for a long time because they're in New York. They've got volume. They can order their special variant coverage, which then they pop on the internet and sell for like $15 a pop.
Right.
We don't have the wherewithal, the resources or the customer base to compete on those kind of levels. So they've had an advantage on us, other retailers, for a long, long time.
Yeah, I feel that way about that. I mean, it's what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
He
I guess
continues
that's really
that point by he continues his Heroes World point by saying that he stopped racking Marvel Comics during Heroes World and his sales went up. I'm not sure how that works.
I don't
mathematically,
think
but
he's a superhero comic store, so truthfully, I don't think that matters. As long as Sandman was coming out, then it'll be okay.
oh
Yeah.
And this is the one I kind of examined a little bit from the reader's standpoint, from the fan
Poor
point.
Daphne Byrne.
Top 5
That
book
better
this
be.
month.
I hope that's a hell of a
Hey,
book.
you felt
I
well
hope it
for
gets
me.
Eisner.
I like that.
It is good. It's fine.
I like all the Hill House books. They're like old school Vertigo. They should have done this instead of Vertigo, and then they might still have Vertigo.
Yeah.
They should
Because
not get
seriously-
Vertigo.
Oh, seriously, this is your relaunch state? Daphne Byrne, The Dreaming, Second Prince, and some Walmart comics? What the serious F is wrong with you, DC? You have an opportunity to redefine DC. And my take on that was that, well, what were you wanting? A reboot? You know, hey, we're coming back after a couple of weeks off. We're doing number ones with everything again. Nobody knows who Superman is once more. Batman's an urban legend. There's no Justice League yet. Dick Grayson is 12 years old. What did you want?
He says that you have an opportunity to redefine DC, but he was already upset when DC was, what did he say earlier on? He said DC is making you choose between these companies or Diamond. So he was already upset with that. Now he's saying, hey, you could have done this.
Well, there's kind of a contradiction. At first, he's mad, like, hey, you're offering other books to other people that we can't sell.
Right.
And then, oh, you're not making a lot of them. Like, which is it? Are you mad that they're making them, or you don't want to make a lot? You know?
Yes.
You know, I mean, both ends of the pendulum have been swinging here.
And this also, I think, is like we had mentioned earlier. I think they're testing this out to see if it's going to work or not, and then maybe next month, as things start to hopefully loosen up with this COVID
Ramp
thing,
it up.
so let's get back open. By then, maybe they'll be ready to put out. Look, I'm ready. We are all waiting for the Joker 80th anniversary. We're all waiting for Batman 92, right? 92, yeah. We're all waiting for Nightwing because of the whole crossover. So there's a lot of really hot DC titles, and DC's aware of that. And yes, I want them now because I can mail order, but that's not going to help Yule, who can't mail order or doesn't want to. So I see where I see why they're holding that stuff back. And like I said, and they're going to test this and see, hey, are we really going to get anything off of this or not? So.
Yeah, you don't start fast. And I mean, again, if you did start fast, you want to throw out Death Metal and the big books on week one, then you'd be completely screwed if you aren't going to go on this. I mean, it's like, it is what it is.
Yeah, if Death Metal came out right now, I'd be upset. You guys don't get that, okay?
So you guys aren't missing on anything right now. It's just
how
kind of
dare
out
you?
a new system.
Really how dare you take Death Metal? But everything except for that pretty much is okay. I mean, for the most part, as long as I'm still able to get what I order through Diamond or through this other company later on, I don't want to, not be able to get it. That's the only thing that really upsets me more than anything in comic books. The only thing that upsets me is when I don't have that comic that the person ordered and I ordered it. I did it
with Diamond. I've actually had times where I've missed on an entire issue, and they're like, "Oh, well, we can't fill it now. We missed you on that, and you're not getting them at all." That's terrible, and it's starting to happen more often now.
It's every summer. There's always one title that I don't get all of it, like Immortal Hulk 28 or something like that.
Yeah, so Diamond, like I say, they're a great company, but they've really been sliding for a while now, and it's like I've sent multiple emails this month to my rep saying, hey, do I even need to mess with this April catalog? I noticed you're extending the March catalog here in April. I don't want to waste time working on this when I'm working on other things. I can't even get a reply back, on what's going on with the April catalog. So the information is just not there.
Now, that's another point that if I were a retailer looking at these other distributors that I would be worried about. I joked earlier that, they definitely have the 9.8 CGC graded material all the time since they get first pick. But if you do order something that is going to be first appearance of Punchline or something like that, and you get shorted, did they get shorted? Did you get shorted because they stocked their store with what they knew they were going to be able to sell?
And I get shorted on the hot stuff from Diamond a lot too. I've kind of wondered about their employees. They're just snatching the good stuff. Variant covers, the hot variant covers. I almost never get those.
You've been shorted?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I get shorted all the time, and I thought it was because I'm the lower guy on the totem pole. I haven't been around for 30, 40 years in business like you have. But
yeah, I've been around 38 years. Now I've been over. See, here's what's happening. I've toured their Olive Branch warehouse, and the way they do the picking is they have like a headset on where a computer's talking to them, and it's not even telling them what the titles are. It says go to aisle 7, bin 33, pull 5 copies. Well, they get to the bin, they rattle it up, it's empty. Well, I guess he's not getting them, and they just keep going. Nobody flags it. Nobody says, hey, we need to do a restock here. Then they come back with my other store, my store collector's edition, and the comic book store, alphabetically, just almost back to back. And so I get shorted the same titles at both stores. And it's still empty. I guess he's not getting it either. And it's a real simple fix. Create a system to where when you run out of a bin, flag it to where you need to restock it. It's that easy. And then they'll come back and say, "Oh yeah, that's a hot title. You're not getting any. We can't fill it." Tell your customers too bad. Customers don't want to hear that.
No, they don't. They don't.
No.
And I hate seeing the price gouging where I'm at, and I assume this happens all over the United States, but I get a couple of my competitors, they'll take like Batman 89, for instance, and they'll put it on eBay and tell everybody, no, I'm out of it, and they'll put it on eBay and sell it, at a high price, or they'll put it back on the back shelf and go, it's $35. But
Wow.
it's a $3.99 issue. Yeah, but we were told by our boss that we're selling it for $30. And then they go, but I'll tell you what, if you buy $30 worth of product at our shop, then we'll let you have it at cover price. Now, this is what I was told by one of my customers. That's why he left that shop and came to me, because Batman 89, I sold at $3.99, cover price. When I was sold out, I sold out. All right.
Mhm.
I don't understand this price gouging crap that I'm seeing. And at least it's happening in my area. I don't know about your guys' area, but it's crazy.
Mhm.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because we're going through Brian Hibbs' points on this distribution system. When I was pulling this up, getting the show notes together, I'm going to go close that out here. Apparently, I'm not pulling power at the moment in my phone. I don't know why that is. I'm plugged into the side of my computer. See if I can get power on this side of it. I found his talk about Hellerism number 3, and how people were just coming in and buying it up because of the investment potential. And what he wrote in his article was, I can't countenance this as a retailer, and so I have to try to deflect you all. This week, our plan is this. If you are not already subbed for Year of the Villain, and in parentheses says, and you aren't, then in order to buy number 3, you have to buy number 1 and number 2 along with it. We're only interested in facilitating the reading of the story. My take on that was that, okay, you've just found a hot book that you're going to sell out of, and you're stuck with number 1 and number 2.
You're going to sell 3 books
so you can get rid of them.
I mean, everybody's got their strategy, I guess.
Well, I adjusted my numbers for that issue low also. But I made sure to take, because we have a good computer system, I looked at anybody that was a regular that got that book, and I pulled it aside regardless for them. And then, I forced the other ones on people too. But I didn't charge $40, So there you go.
You just charge cover price, you're good to go, I guess.
Yeah.
On the distribution thing, he moves into the what I call the emotional blackmail realm now regarding DC. He says, if they do this, my only possible response can be, well, I guess most new DC periodicals are subs only. This will cut approximately 60% of their sales at Comix Experience forever.
Yeah, I mean, that's nice to say, but it's an interesting threat. I'm not sure who the threat's going to, or are they expecting somebody? I mean, is he expecting somebody at DC to be like, oh crap, okay, well we'll cancel all these plans then and hunker down? I mean, if the comics are good and the customers want them, then he's going to stock them, or he's crazy. And I mean, sure, I lots of people make threats. I mean, to me, it's very similar to the people on the Marvel side, or like I don't like the Twitter behavior of Marvel, or the social topic on Marvel, so I'm canceling all the Marvel comics from my shop. I'm like, yeah, sure you are.
That's crazy talk.
Go nuts, But
what you do now is every Wednesday you go outside Comix Experience, you find the nearest telephone pole, and you put up a flyer that says, "Were you not able to find this DC comic? Well, come on down to Berkeley here at Fantastic Comics."
Oh, don't do that.
of course, this means war.
That's that's going far. I'll just go to Oakland instead.
No, but it's
not
so
so much as the retailers.
Maybe to illustrate the point, back in '92, or no, it was later than that, I guess. So there's a comic shop in my area when I was down in Colorado, And for whatever reason, he was pissed that the people left Marvel to go form Image, that was a betrayal of Marvel. So he's like, I'm not ordering any of these Image titles. It's like, cool. I've got Spawn in my shop. Come on down. I mean, and I mean, what are you gonna? If you want to not take money, you can not take money. It's your right, but somebody else will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, the fastest way to drive business to Midtown and DCBS is absolutely to not carry the books and tell your customers to go there. So,
Right.
Come on down to Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not going to another store, exactly. If they're not going to another store, they're going to just go straight to DCBS now. I mean, they've already been thinking about it. Let's be real. People that were going to do it have probably already know about it, and it was just you not carrying it that like really forced them to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm not open, so I'm clear.
He goes on to say that in even the best possible world, and he mentions that we're not in it right now for sure, mainstream superhero comics are supported by the faith of the retailers on the balance. Is your faith in DCBS and Midtown so absolute? Is it really?
And this guy's been on
concerned about DCBS or Midtown? I mean, you guys that scared of them to not do business with them, or?
I mean, I'd rather not, but I mean, if there's no choice, I'm going to do business with them. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, I need books now, and my customers expect me to get the books now. I mean, like I say, they were loading up on my Facebook page, and I'm still getting calls and emails. Are you going to be carrying those books when they start coming out? People are desperate for something new to read. Right. I mean, we've got a whole month with no new releases, and a whole month of people at home bored out of the gourd. Like we were talking about ICV2 earlier. Earlier in a month there, end of last month, I published an article, and they're going, "Hey, listen, guys, this is an opportunity here. You don't need, And I was talking to the publisher. I wasn't even thinking about Diamond. I said, you got to keep publishing because people are going to be at home. They're going to want to read. This is a great opportunity to really build our customer base. Grow it. And I said it's kind of like what the quote is from Frank Herbert's Dune: "The spice must flow." Well, the spice has been cut off for a month now. My customers are having cravings.
Yeah, and so are mine. I get texts, at least once or twice a week going, "Hey, any more news? When are you going to open?" That kind of thing, And,
yeah.
And even let's say in a perfect scenario, I get to open next week or in a couple of weeks, and Lunar gets me my book, even though it's limited to what I can order in. I still can't do any gaming because you don't want more than 10 people in an area, and I can't. Even if I had those 10 people, I can't get them 6 feet apart. So I'm not going to do any more gaming. We do movie nights because I have a movie theater, a little mini movie theater at the shop. I'm not going to be doing that. So it's not going to be 100% back to normal. But at least people can come in, get what little new books are out there. And I carry toys. And people they're like, "Well, I never thought about getting that toy, but you know what? I want that Venom statue you got." Okay, cool. Sold, So,
Stephen, you brought up a good point too. You said if you had a choice, when Diamond comes back, you have a choice. Do you think that this DCBS Midtown situation survives into a post-Corona world?
If they do it right,
Yeah, exactly.
All about if they can do it right. If they can get all of our books to us on a timely fashion, like Michael said, not damaged. That
not
kind of
short.
Thing. Yeah, or short. But the one thing I found out bizarre is that Lunar, who I'm doing mine through, I have 24 hours from when I receive the shipment to let them know if there's any damage or anything to it. So, depending on the size, of an order, like a Diamond order that we'll get in, let's say a $1,500 order or so, that takes me 2 days for me to get through it because it's me. Remember, I don't have employees. It's me, myself, and I running the whole show. So, I usually take Tuesday and get the books in and get them out on the shelf, do my pull list, all of that. Then Wednesday and Thursday, I'm checking in my toys and collectibles. Man, now Lunar, granted, I assume it's just nothing more than comics to them through these alternate guys. So that's fine, but still 24 hours, that puts the pressure on you to get it out there and let them know what's damaged and whatnot. So, Can they survive? I think they can if they do it right.
Yeah. And, this is starting out. I mean, who's not to say that things are going to change. The terms are going to get different. Maybe we'll get a little bit more lead time once we do have more books to process. They're still figuring out. They're still setting up their infrastructure too. I'm hoping Diamond, gets back and gets going again and actually starts to be competitive like they once were and return to the levels of service that we used to get from them. That would be the best of all worlds right there. But I still think they need to have competition and other people selling books because otherwise there's no incentive to try harder.
They need competition to push them there.
Mm-hmm.
He goes on to talk about the business model of Midtown and DCBS is largely based on massive discounts and undercutting the asking price of the cover price. Changing that would seem to be an incredibly dangerous idea and what will almost certainly be lower demand on the other side of this. If you ask me, going the other way with minimum asked pricing is the much smarter way to go. The people who are the new distributor should not be the people who also sell for 40+% off.
I mean, sure. I mean, yeah, I think, and this goes back to separation of companies. I think there's ways for this to go horribly wrong, for sure, and there's ways that you do it. But again, if it goes horribly wrong, then you arguably have massive business conflicts. You're gonna have lawsuits. You're gonna have other problems. So, sure. I mean, yeah, it'd be wonderful if some angel investor came in and created this amazing comic distribution system that was independent of everyone else and was just a good guy, didn't care about losing money for the next 15 years. That'd be awesome. But that person hasn't appeared for the last 15 years, so I don't know.
And from what I'm getting out of what Brian said is that we shouldn't offer our reserve customers discounts anymore. Minimum price setting. That's kind of Sherman's antitrust collusion and price fixing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
How many more questions does Brian guy have?
Yeah, and I actually apologize. I've got speaking of which, timely thing. I finally got an answer back on a store I'm trying to rent. So I need to call the guy back here shortly. So I may have to drop here, but I want to thank you for having me on. It's great chatting with you. We need to do it with the cameras on and everything. You can see my goofy face.
He doesn't have any more questions at all. Because it starts devolving into this whole non-American accounts are just thrown to the wolves. Really? Because, we're not really thinking of the Albanian comic shops here now, so who cares?
Right.
Well, I mean, UK, screw them anyway. So I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
But
thanks for coming in and talking with us today, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Let's do it again real soon. I'll be back, and or if you'll have me, I'll be back. But otherwise, let's chat. So good to see you.
It's always good to hear what else is going around the country there.
We've been at each of these saying we'll be back in 2, so let's do another 2-week out.
Another 2 weeks.
Right.
In business, some people won't.
We'll
Cheers
do it.
to everybody.
Hey, cheers to you.
Guys.
See you soon.
Hang in there, guys.
Yeah.
Take care.
See y'all later, guys. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I think a comment like that is more like just that his entire thesis, if you will, or points aren't just centered around him. So when you mention like Canadian stores or other, obviously they're going to have to be dealt with also if this is going to happen for them. So there's legalities and countries, and I don't know. You tell me.
I don't read Brian's column very often, but I have read it a couple times before, and I've heard him say that same thing about, well, I'm going to reserves only. Won't carry it on my shelf. I've heard him use that same threat before whenever he was unhappy with the publisher. So,
well,
yeah.
If I'm not open and I have to get those books for somebody because I fear Diamond isn't, I will only get like reserves and a few extra for the store.
Yeah,
because I'm not open, obviously. I mean, why would I buy a full amount that I would expect to sell over the course of a month? That'd be foolish. So him saying that he's going to cut to reserves it's supposed to be taken as a threat, but it's just the reality of the situation. He doesn't have the quantity of people coming in the store. He can't buy that much regardless.
Yeah.
So
we're going to sell 5 less.
Well, I hate to be like picking him apart like that, but he was like at the end of the day and he had all these thoughts and he was putting them out there. So, bravo, you're loud and, someone's got to be there for us, I guess. You know,
I'll agree with him more often than I disagree with him.
right?
You know, business is like politics. You're not going to agree with everybody on everything or anybody on everything.
Right, exactly.
You know, he does go on to say that this is going to permanently poison my relationship with DC and impact the long-term sales here unless they change their direction. I don't know. That sounds like temper tantruming to me.
A little myopic of a view.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in the chat in his Facebook post. I don't usually do that kind of stuff, but someone said that retailers have memories like elephants, and I said I wish they had the backbone of elephants.
Ooh.
I got a like.
That you did. John Kilgallion basically has referred to this as the Comics Distribution Manifesto, and yeah, you were definitely right there, John. This was a screed. Reed Troutman asked, "Does Diamond ever throw a few extra copies of a good book into your order to help out?"
Only if it's an accident.
They don't make accidents on mine. It's amazing how they can short me all the
Wow.
time, but they never actually give me anything extra. You know, which you know, if somebody's making honest mistakes, you know, they're going to go both directions. I never have overages. I always have shortages.
Yeah, I report those though. I just want everybody to know that.
I just
Well,
don't
you know
get 'em.
what? Diamond reports them when you order 10 copies of Iceman #1, and why you would do that, I don't know. And you get 20, they report 20 sold to your store.
Yes.
I called them and confirmed that.
Well, it's all bookkeeping. I mean, that's kind of that's a cute little way they get to make things sound like they sold more than they actually did. But hey, man, Marvel and Diamond. You know, it's really Marvel that sees it better than Diamond. They say, hey, look at how well this book sold, and then when the trade comes out, they can say, they can pitch that to the libraries and like the Scholastic orders, depending if it's like a younger reader stuff type book. And there you go, way to go, bravo.
Yeah. Now,
All right.
DC has been easier for me to order than Marvel because DC has continuing numbering, and I know what I'm going to sell on those, so I can order those very accurately. Marvel, you almost need a crystal ball and polish it all up, and then you just grab the dice, roll them. Okay, that's the number I'm going to order. I mean, you're just having to pull numbers out of thin air because nothing almost has any history. Like we were talking about earlier about Avengers: The Wasteland. If you go by the previous sales of a story like that or Avengers, you'd think order high numbers, but it's one of 20 or 30 new #1s coming out every month. It doesn't. It's too crowded. They're competing against themselves, and so order light on it. And guess what? It's still too heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
DC's not totally innocent on that one, but they're not.
They just don't do it
DC
as
started to do it more too,
excellently.
yeah.
They just don't do it as well as Marvel. They just never can. Marvel has a way of just like trying to squeeze that last cent out of you. DC is like, oh, we'll charge you $1 less. Marvel's all, F that, it's $10. Don't worry about it. Hold my beer.
holding the line at $2.99.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was thinking of that, yeah.
I mean, oh, thank you. I really do believe, though, that the one problem I have with the whole distribution thing that's going on right now is that it's making us rush to, I mean, I understand you're open, but we are rushing to the finish line and we're not like bargaining, at all. And if Diamond is up and running and they're like, all right, we were going to fix things, but now they have to hurry up and just get right back into the saddle. We're not going to have any. There's been problems at Diamond, and like you said, I mean, and it's more than just competition. They are running with that long ass contract that just never got addressed.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been working under that, and there's like changes that need to be done. And I think that the industry was already changing to a more online back issue, a lot less of the new material type stuff. And, some of those old stores are just like old models that just aren't going to work anymore, even though they were like really big and successful.
Way I've survived is I carry a huge selection of back issues. Howard's been in my stores before, and I've got, counting on top of storage, I probably got 350,000 units of old comics for sale. I mean, not different ones. Obviously, there's a lot of multiples in there, but I've got a massive selection at both stores. I don't even have a way to put it all out for sale.
Mhm.
And so that's why I was already planning to get the internet working for me to try to get more of my inventory active. But with I'm pretty well insulated against downturns like this because I have the old comics. I remember like when Convergence happened a few years ago, and it was a summer of filler from DC,
It sure
and
was.
people would come and they'd buy the back issues, and same thing when Marvel goes to the tank and does some pretty rotten stuff. The people go buy the old ones. The old stuff is time tested and approved. Those are the great stories. They may not have had as flashy art as what we have now, but the stories were so much better. And guess what? You read it in a few minutes rather than 5 minutes. Okay, I'm done with that issue.
Yeah.
You read it in an issue. You read a whole story in an issue, and it was complex, and it was deep, and it had talk, and it had pictures, and it didn't fly by in 3 minutes. You're like, they ate something and talked about going somewhere. And
A beginning and a middle and an end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like Mike Barron was saying, you have to have a connection to the characters and emotion. And then he didn't really say that other, these one issue stories, or you get a whole bunch of plot within those, 20 pages. Nowadays, it's just one of so many other issues that just,
like when I was doing my Wild Stars, I was giving you a whole story on each one, but when you put them all together, it had a bigger overall story.
Exactly. I mean, and that's fine there. I mean, you can have your long arc story. Uncanny X-Men all throughout the 80s was this huge, massive novel told in short stories.
mm-hmm.
That you could pick one up, you could pick two up, you got something. There was a continuing thread, but you didn't have to know it because a good writer lets you know what's gone on before and where you're going from here without having to have page one be a text block that says previously in Superman, and then you got to spend 5 minutes reading the first page before you can turn the page and dive into the comic.
I remember when Jim Owsley took over Marvel as the editor, and he wrote Fantastic Force. And here you have a female character, she's lifting her Rajas. Now strikes Huntaris, the goddess warrior. She gives her whole biography as she's about to strike. It was so stilted and just difficult to read. And I remember there's a Fantastic Four, big foil cover came out at the same time, and Dr. Doom was defeating each of the Fantastic Four individually. No, this doesn't feel right. I can't deliver the killing blow. And then he waits till they all joined up to gang up on the end. He's like, oh, who would have seen this coming? Like everybody reading this book saw this coming. And in the very last panel, he's going, aha, but they never was suspected I managed to survive that. There ain't nobody who thinks you're dead, Dr. Doom. I'm sorry.
But you remember that issue.
That was that bad, yeah.
But you remember that.
Yeah.
That's a lot better
than Geek, too. That was pretty bad.
There is like so many comics that I've read that come out today, and they're just as bad as something that I read then. But those things have so many more elements to them that it's more than just nostalgia, that makes me actually like them. It's just like, wow, look at all this stuff that was being fed to me. I'm not being fed anything, in comic books hardly at all. It's like it's watered down is what it is. Even if the subject matter can be more mature, or the thought processes are better in comics today, maybe, or the art is better.
The art's better. The process is not.
There was the old guys knew how to tell the stories so that anybody could get, like, there's not a willingness to start at number 10 or 20 or 30.
You could read a Jack Kirby comic. You knew what was going on. You didn't have to read the words.
Exactly. And, so you don't have to, you desire to go back and get all the previous issues, but, I might not ever do that. And I got to start reading Spider-Man. I'll start at 200 or 250 or whatever the hell now. Yeah. And
they were fun back then too.
Yeah. Each issue was like its own little story, like we've been saying just a second ago, that you could get into. And it was understandable and relatable, and sometimes the stuff these days aren't as great in that regard.
I've been going back
a lot of regurgitation.
I've been going back frequently to this Superman comic I picked up for 25 cents at a half price books. It's number 176, 276. I don't know. It's a triple digit number. You open it up, nothing happened before it that you need to know.
Mhm.
It's just Clark Kent wakes up in the morning and he's a foot taller than he was yesterday because Lex Luthor has shown up from wherever Lex Luthor was and has zapped him with some sort of pituitary growth ray that says your body's going to get bigger, but your brain's going to stay the same size and you won't be able to control your movements as you get to be Godzilla sized. And he gets the Atom to help him. The Atom comes in to do some sciencey kind of talk. And of course, they trick Lex Luthor into thinking that he's growing now too and shrinks the whole thing back down. Story's over. Clark Kent goes to work.
Yeah.
But that was the way. I mean, you know, so a guy like let's see, Matt Fraction did Hawkeye not too long ago. 10 years ago now, I guess. Warren Ellis did like some Moon Knights, and each issue was like a one-issue story that may be connected overall in the end. But those were so refreshing, and everybody really liked those so much, in my store at least. And it's a shame that people didn't see, like, oh, that's something that people actually like, you know, just the one story. Just the one story. It's just, you know, I used to not like 8 and 10 issue or 10-page stories because I didn't think you got a whole lot in them. But you get so much more in those old Marvel ones than you do in like the whole 6-issue arc these days. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I remember back when
they decompressed it.
I remember when Jim Shooter was the editor-in-chief of Marvel, and he had a rule. You must treat every issue as if it's somebody's first comic. And back then, Marvel was 2/3 of the marketplace. I mean, they were dominant. And they also shipped on time. Now, the writers and the artists hated that. Like, well, if I don't turn my work in, you're going to just put in filler, or you're going to have another artist finish off the book. And so everybody was always mad at Jim Shooter. But, hey, his philosophy worked.
Yep. Well, guys, this is we've started an entirely new stream now. Talking
Oh, yeah,
about
we
different
should.
topics. We've gone on way longer than I've ever gone on a stream before, and I appreciate y'all hanging in there with me. For those in the chat, if you've enjoyed our show, we're going to have these folks back on in 2 weeks again. We can do that. See where things are yet again. If you like this kind of a show, we have a subscribe button and a like button down there. We appreciate you hitting it. We're trying to get our subscriber base up to the 1,000 magic mark. We're 90 people away, so we can do that. If you want to help the site out, just go visit criticalblast.com. It doesn't cost you a thing to look at our reviews, our interviews. You'll find some stuff you like there, and the ads will take care of itself. If, however, you absolutely have to have merchandise, we are also a publishing entity, and our first young adult superhero novel, Bulletproof Origins, is out on Amazon. The link is in the description. This is from Stephen J. Mitchell. We published that, and it's about 16-year-old Cody Haywood who wakes up one day to find out he's bulletproof. Unfortunately, he's got undiagnosed ADD, so his focus issue is a failure for him. His friends have to help him become the superhero he's meant to be before the terrorists, who know that he's bulletproof, get to him and find out how to make themselves bulletproof. Everybody, we thank you for coming in. Michael, great to have you as always. Yul, thank you for coming in. And we will try to set this up again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, if no other retailer from around the country comes over and tries to drown me, I'll be here.
You can tell us all about that Daphne Byrne issue.
Yeah, top 5 book for the month.
We expect a review.
I'll be
All
sold
right.
out. Probably won't get a chance to look at it.
I sold both copies.
That's it. Maybe 3.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Y'all
Take it
take
easy.
care. Good seeing y'all.